Okay, so let's take a look now at positioning the finger clusters individually. What we're going to do here is loosen each finger cluster a little bit and find the position where the center of the key lines up pretty well with the center of the fingertip. So I've left the middle finger here because I sized to that with the palm rest. I'm just going to tweak the angle a little bit so it feels nice and lined up with the axis of my finger, which you'll notice is not vertical. It's a little bit this way. So that feels about right. We can fine tune later. The index finger, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to find where it's lined up with the axis of my finger and make sure that feels good under my finger there. And it turns out that for me personally, fully north is about right on the index and middle fingers based on the length discrepancy of my fingers and how curled my fit is. You may find that that's different, but start there and move it southward until it feels like it lines up, and then you'll be in a good shape. So here for the middle finger, for the ring finger, I'm gonna put my finger on there. I'm just gonna scoot it to where it feels like it's about in the right place. And again, you'll notice that the angle here is lined up more with the angle of my finger to the hand. So it's along this axis rather than being square straight against the next one. You may like it that way, it's up to you, but personally for me, having it aligned with the direction of the finger attachment to the actual hand itself feels a little bit more natural. It means that my southward movement is a pure curling movement rather than having any lateral component, since we want to use the lateral components for the lateral keys. So fingers should rest lightly on the center keys. You shouldn't be accidentally pressing them. But if you're a first-time user, chances are you have a decade or two of doing too much with your hands under your belt. Your hands are going to be noisy, and they're going to be a little twitchy. You're going to be accidentally pressing keys. So in order to deal with that, you can loosen this screw here on the index finger, for example. Loosen a little bit, and you can lower the cluster down, and that will let you reduce the preload on the key, or basically just make it farther away from your finger. So you can figure that out, figure out what you want in terms of overall preload. And as your fingers relax, you'll be able to move the keys closer, have a little bit more preload, and you won't be as twitchy. You'll notice that my pinky is still way, way out of position here. It's like resting on the south key entirely. So I'm gonna slide this one further south until my finger is basically on the center of the key. And then I'm gonna lock that down gently. And that's a very rough preliminary fit on the key clusters. Something you wanna check at this point is that none of your keys are blocking each other. If any of the keys are interfering and keeping them from activating all the way, you might have a key that feels like it isn't working. And that would be because it's not moving far enough and it's going bonk and not able to actually open up the opto interrupter that senses the key activation. In this case, we're fine, there's no issue. But here we go. So this is my basic fit on the fingers and the palm. Now for the thumb, we're gonna have to do a little more exploration. So what you can see right here is that my thumb at this point is pushing pretty far down the thumb key, and you really want to be up here at the tip of it because that also gives you access to the pad key and the nail key and the knuckle key and the up key, all within a very small range of motion. So in order to get into that relaxed position, I'm going to loosen the thumb cluster with this screw. On more recent builds, there are actually 2 slots here, so you'll loosen 2 screws because it holds it down better. And I'm just going to slide it right until my thumb feels like it's in a pretty good place here to hit all of those keys. And I'm just going to snug it down gently and see how that feels. Okay, now one thing I notice immediately here is that the roll of the thumb cluster feels weird. I don't want it to be pitched inwards like this. I want it to be rolled a little bit outwards or flat. So I'm just gonna tilt it like that. I didn't even have to loosen the screw because it's not super snug. And you'll find that in general, as you're fitting, you can just tighten the screws slightly, and then you can move things manually without having to use the screwdriver, and that'll make things a lot quicker. So from here, I've got what I would describe as a decent preliminary fit, right? I can hit all the keys. The knuckle feels a little far away, so I'll rotate that inwards a little bit. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm just gonna cinch this down. So there we go, that's a basic fit. Next, we're gonna look at what you do to actually assess how good the fit is as you learn to type on the device, and the little tweaks you can make to help with preload and to help with biasing for one key or another. Basically, anytime you're hitting a key too much, you'll want to move that key away from you a little bit. In the case of a south key, you'd want to move the cluster this way to move the south key away from your finger. If it was the north key, you might be cramped and you might want to move the north key away from your finger. Or you might want to move the palm southwards to get a little bit more room from all the north keys, right? If I'm cramped up against these here, I'd want to move the palm south so that my hand ends up further away from them. So you can adjust things individually at the cluster, or you can adjust them holistically by moving the palm rest in various directions. We'll get into that in a different shot because we need to see what's going on over here on the towers that hold the clusters in order to really understand how those motions work.